I woke up to the sound of rustling. It wasn't the gentle whisper of the wind against our tent or the rhythmic lapping of the lake against the shore. No, this was different. Sharp. Urgent. Blinking away sleep, I reached out instinctively, expecting to find my wife, Amanda, curled up beside me in the sleeping bag. But the space was empty. Cold. My groggy mind struggled to make sense of it. I checked my watch, 4:17 a.m. Too early for her to be up on her own. She wasn't one for sunrise fishing trips, and she definitely wasn't one for early morning hikes. I sat up, my breath misting in the cold dawn air. Outside the tent, the campsite was eerily quiet. The embers from last night's fire had long since burned out, leaving only the faintest traces of warmth. Then I noticed the car. My gut clenched as I scrambled out of the tent. The tires were flat, completely shredded. Someone had slashed them. And then, under the dim light of the crescent moon, I saw it. Etched deep into the driver's side door, scratched in with what looked like a nail, were the words, "Loser." I took a step back, my pulse pounding in my ears. My first instinct was that this was some random act of vandalism. Maybe some local kids messing around. But then a sharp, acrid scent hit me, gasoline. I turned, my heart racing now. A dark outline of liquid snaked around our campsite, leading back towards the trees. My mind reeled, trying to process what I was seeing. Someone had doused the area in gas. Someone had. The fire erupted before I could finish the thought. It started with a sudden whoosh, a blast of heat so intense it sent me stumbling backward. Flames leapt up, racing through the dry brush, licking at the edges of our tent. "Amanda!" I shouted, my voice hoarse. "Amanda, where are you?" But she didn't answer. The fire spread fast, faster than I thought possible. My lungs filled with thick smoke, my eyes stung, and for a terrifying moment, I thought this was it, this was how I was going to die. And then I saw him. A figure stood just beyond the fire's glow, a silhouette against the trees. He was tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a dark hoodie. His stance was relaxed, almost casual, as if he were enjoying the show. And then he turned. And I saw his face. It wasn't a stranger. It wasn't some random vandal or a psychopath in the woods. It was Jake. Amanda's co-worker. The one she always said was just a friend. He met my gaze for a split second, a smirk tugging at the corner of his mouth. And then, he disappeared into the darkness. That was when I knew, this wasn't random. This wasn't a mistake. This was a setup. And Amanda was part of it. Part 2, a trap set in flames. Panic clawed at my chest, but survival instinct took over. I had to move. Now. I turned back to the tent, knowing there was no saving it. Flames devoured the fabric, collapsing it inward like a beast consuming its prey. The fire spread fast, fueled by the gasoline, leaping from tree to tree like it had a mind of its own. I ran toward the car, hoping, praying, that I could still drive it out of here, shredded tires be damned. But as I reached the driver's side, I saw the extent of the damage. It wasn't just the tires. The windshield was smashed, and the seats inside were soaked, more gasoline. They wanted me to burn. I stumbled back, coughing as thick smoke filled my lungs. My mind raced. I had no phone, no way to call for help. We were miles from the nearest road, deep in the woods by the lake. No one would hear me scream. And Amanda was still missing. Or was she? A sickening thought lodged itself in my gut. Had she been taken? Was she tied up somewhere, helpless? Or, had she walked away willingly? Had she stood beside Jake, watching, while I lay sleeping? I clenched my fists. I needed to get out of here and find out the truth. There was only one way to go, through the water. The lake stretched out behind the campsite, dark and endless under the pre-dawn sky. I sprinted toward it, my boots kicking up damp earth. Flames crackled behind me, eating up everything in their path. I didn't hesitate. I dove in. The cold was a shock to my system, stealing my breath as I went under. But it dulled the fire's heat, the smell of gasoline washing away as I pushed forward. I swam hard, cutting through the water in desperate strokes, heading for the far shore. The fire raged on behind me, its reflection flickering on the water's surface like something out of a nightmare. By the time I dragged myself onto the opposite bank, I was shaking, not just from the cold, but from the realization of what had just happened. Amanda had set me up. And Jake had tried to kill me. I wasn't supposed to make it out. But I had. And now, they were going to wish I hadn't. Part 3, Pieces of the Puzzle. I sat on the damp ground, sucking in deep breaths, my pulse still hammering from the near escape. The fire across the lake continued its rampage, lighting up the night like a beacon of betrayal. My hands clenched into fists, the wet fabric of my shirt sticking to my skin as the shock of it all settled in. Amanda. The woman I had loved, the woman I had built a life with, had done this. Or at the very least, she had stood by and watched. The realization hit like a gut punch, twisting something deep inside me. But I couldn't afford to crumble. Not now. Not yet. I needed to think. Jake had slashed my tires. Doused the car. Set the fire. That much was clear. But why go through all this trouble? If Amanda really wanted out, if she wanted to leave me for him, why not just leave? Unless, it wasn't just about leaving. It was about getting rid of me. I swallowed hard, replaying everything I knew about Amanda in my mind. The little changes in her behavior over the past few months. The late nights. The hushed phone calls. The sudden need for privacy where there had never been any before. I had written it off as stress. Work. Now, I saw it for what it was, planning. But planning for what? I forced myself to my feet, my body aching, my clothes heavy with lake water. I didn't have much time. If Jake thought I was dead, he and Amanda would move fast, packing up, getting their story straight, erasing the evidence. But they didn't know the truth. They didn't know I was still alive. And that gave me an advantage. I needed to get back to town. Find a phone. Find out what else she had done. Because if Amanda had already tried to get rid of me once, this wasn't the first time. And something told me it wouldn't have been the last. Part 4, A History of Lies. Dawn was breaking by the time I reached the main road. My body ached, my clothes were still damp, and every step felt like dragging dead weight. But I kept moving. I had to. I had too many questions, and only one person could answer them. Amanda. But I wasn't about to walk into this blindly. If she had gone as far as trying to kill me, I needed to be sure. I needed proof. And I had an idea where to start. There was one thing Amanda never knew: I had access to her old email account. Years ago, I had helped her set it up, back before smartphones remembered passwords for you. She had since switched to a different email, but she never deactivated the old one. And I never told her that I could still log in. As I walked toward town, I pulled the memory from the back of my mind. The password. A mix of her childhood pet's name and her birth year. If she hadn't changed it. 15 minutes later, I was sitting in the back booth of an all-night diner, my fingers trembling as I tapped at the greasy screen of a public-use tablet. I entered the password. It worked. I felt my stomach clench as her inbox loaded. Thousands of unread emails, mostly junk, but one folder stood out. Deleted messages. I clicked it, and my blood ran cold. There were dozens of emails between Amanda and Jake. Some of them were from months ago. Plans. Conversations. Ideas. She had wanted to poison me. Once. Twice. 3 times. But something had always gone wrong. A last-minute cancelled dinner. A drink I had left unfinished. A meal I had skipped. Each failed attempt had only made them bolder. That's when they started talking about the fire. My breath came short, my vision tunneling in on the words in front of me. Jake, slashing the tires will make sure he can't escape. But we have to make sure it looks like an accident. Amanda, he won't be able to run. And once it catches, there won't be anything left. Jake, you sure you're okay with this? Amanda, I don't want to be looking over my shoulder for the rest of my life. This is the only way. My hands curled into fists. My wife had written this. She had planned this. And now she thought she had won. I clenched my jaw. She had no idea what was coming. I sat in the diner, the glow of the screen illuminating the damning words in front of me. She wanted me dead. Not just dead, erased. And she had tried before. I scrolled further through the deleted messages, my pulse pounding. More conversations. More failed attempts. That night she insisted on cooking my favorite steak dinner. She had laced my wine with something, but I never took a sip. The time my brakes mysteriously failed coming down the highway, forcing me to swerve into a ditch, Jake had helped get my car serviced just a few days before. A near miss with an allergic reaction, one I had chalked up to cross-contamination. But now I wasn't so sure. This wasn't new. Amanda had been trying to kill me for months. I exhaled shakily, forcing my rage down. I couldn't lose control, not yet. I needed more than just emails. I needed evidence that would hold up, that would prove what she had done beyond a shadow of a doubt. My fingers flew across the screen, forwarding the most incriminating emails to myself. Then, I wiped the tablet's search history clean and pushed it aside. Now, I needed to find Amanda. And I had a good idea where she'd be. An unexpected meeting. I took a cab to our house. As soon as I pulled up, I saw it, Jake's truck in the driveway. They didn't waste any time. I clenched my jaw, forcing myself to stay calm. I wasn't going to storm in and confront them, not yet. I needed to watch. To see how they acted when they thought they were alone, when they thought they had won. So I stayed in the shadows, waiting. 10 minutes passed. Then 15. Then, the front door swung open. Amanda stepped out first, dressed casually in yoga pants and a sweatshirt, as if she hadn't just tried to burn me alive. Jake followed behind, his hand on her waist, pulling her close as they walked toward his truck. She didn't even look sad. Not an ounce of grief. Not even fake tears. Instead, she was laughing. A deep, gut-wrenching rage built inside me. But I swallowed it down. I wasn't going to lose control. Not yet. Because when I finally made my move, there would be no coming back. I watched them drive away, the rumble of Jake's truck fading into the morning air. My heart pounded with a mix of fury and disbelief. But now wasn't the time to confront them. I needed a plan, one that wouldn't just expose them, but destroy every lie they'd ever built. After they left, I slipped into the house. It was strange, standing in my own home, feeling like a ghost. Everything was just as we'd left it, cozy throw blankets, framed photos of vacations we took together, the lingering scent of her perfume in the hallway. All lies. I walked into the kitchen, my eyes scanning every surface. I knew Amanda was meticulous, borderline obsessive about keeping things tidy. But there, on the counter, was a mug. Hers. Half full of coffee, still warm. I opened the trash bin. Buried under a layer of crumpled paper towels and last night's takeout containers were 2 burned matches and a receipt. My heart raced as I pulled it out and unfolded it. It was from a hardware store. Just yesterday. And on the list, gas can, matches, duct tape, knife. The evidence was right here. In our home. My hands trembled as I took photos of everything, the receipt, the matches. I tucked them into a plastic bag from under the sink. Evidence. Proof of what they'd done, what they'd tried to do. I needed more. Upstairs, I moved into our bedroom, opening her closet. I pushed past her neat rows of blouses and dresses until I found a small safe, a birthday gift from me years ago, meant for her to store jewelry. But today, I had a feeling it held far more. I entered the combination, her birthday, and it clicked open. Inside, my suspicions were confirmed. Stacks of cash, more than we ever kept at home, bundled together tightly. And there, nestled in the corner, a small vial labeled sodium cyanide. My stomach turned. They had planned for every possibility. If the fire hadn't worked, this was their backup. Poison, ready to be slipped into my food, my drink, whenever the opportunity arose. I grabbed my phone and took photos of everything, my breath hitching. There was no way they'd talk their way out of this. And then I saw it, a folder labeled Plan B. Inside were documents, papers marked with my name. Bank statements, insurance policies, even a draft obituary. She had written my death before it even happened. My blood ran cold. This was more than greed, more than infidelity. This was premeditated murder. And now, I had everything I needed to take them down. I stood in the bedroom, my hands gripping the folder labeled Plan B, my pulse a steady drum in my ears. This wasn't just an affair gone wrong. This wasn't some impulsive mistake. Amanda and Jake had planned this down to the finest detail. But they had made one crucial mistake. They had underestimated me. I took photos of everything inside the safe, the cash, the poison, the documents, and carefully placed everything back exactly as I found it. They couldn't know I had been here. Not yet. I stepped away from the safe and moved toward Amanda's nightstand. If she was this sloppy, what else had she left behind? I slid open the drawer and found her phone charger, a few stray receipts, and a second phone. My heart skipped a beat. A burner phone. I turned it on. No passcode. Sloppy, Amanda. The recent texts loaded immediately. And there they were, dozens of messages between her and Jake. Jake, he's gone. It's over. Amanda, are you sure? Jake, he burned with the tent. No way he made it out. Amanda, I still feel sick. Maybe we should wait before moving the money. Jake, we stick to the plan. I'll come over later. I stared at the screen, my jaw tightening. They were already dividing up the spoils of my death. I took pictures of every message. When I was done, I powered the phone off and placed it exactly where I found it. Let them think I was dead. Let them feel safe. Because when I came back, it wouldn't be with anger. It would be with absolute ruin. Setting the stage. I left the house through the back door, careful not to leave a trace. My mind was already working on the next steps. First, I needed a place to stay, somewhere off the grid, where they wouldn't think to look for me. My old buddy Greg owned a small hunting cabin about an hour away. It didn't have Wi-Fi or cell reception, but that was exactly what I needed. Second, I needed to contact someone I could trust. I wasn't going to the police yet, this had to be airtight. No room for error. I needed legal backup, someone who could guide me through this without tipping them off. I had an idea. 20 minutes later, I sat inside a rundown internet cafe, using a public laptop to send an encrypted email. To Attorney Mike Weston. Subject, urgent, need immediate legal consultation. Mike. I need your help. I can't go into details here, but I have evidence of an attempted murder, my own. I need legal protection, and I need it fast. Call this number from a burner phone only. Do not email back. I sent it and logged out immediately. Now, I just had to wait. And while I waited, I would prepare. Amanda and Jake thought they had won. But they were about to learn what real fear felt like. By the time I reached Greg's hunting cabin, my mind was razor sharp. The fatigue, the cold, the hunger, all of it faded into the background. I had one focus now, bringing them down. Greg didn't ask many questions. We'd been friends for years, the kind of friendship built on unspoken trust. When I told him I needed a place to lay low for a few days, he just nodded, handed me a spare key, and told me where the backup generator was. Whatever's going on, he said, lighting a cigarette on the porch, you let me know if you need backup. I clasped his shoulder. I'll handle it. Just need time. Inside the cabin, I spread out everything I had, photos of the evidence, screenshots of the emails and texts, even a few notes I scribbled down on a notepad. I needed to build my case. Then my burner phone rang. Mike. You weren't kidding about this being urgent, he said. What the hell is going on, Mark? I took a breath. Amanda and her lover tried to kill me. Silence. Then, a low whistle. You better start from the beginning. I told him everything. The failed poisoning attempts. The brake tampering. The slashed tires. The emails I found. The fire. Mike didn't interrupt. When I finished, his tone was ice cold. You have enough for attempted murder charges. And with the poison? Premeditation. That's a guaranteed life sentence. I exhaled. Then I need you to help me build the perfect case. You're not thinking of going to the police yet? Not yet, I said. Not until I know they can't wiggle out of it. I need them to bury themselves. Mike hesitated. Mark. I get the need for revenge. But don't do anything that puts you in prison instead of them. I ran a hand through my hair. Don't worry. I'm not killing anyone. But I was going to make them wish they were dead. Amanda and Jake thought I was gone. They were already planning their future, one built on my death. It was time to shake that fantasy apart. First, I needed to hit them where it hurt. I called my bank. Using the emergency backup passcode I had set up years ago, I froze all joint accounts. No withdrawals. No transfers. No access. Then, I used Amanda's old email to reset her primary account's password. Within minutes, I had locked her out of her own money. Next, I made an anonymous call to Jake's boss. Posing as an anonymous whistleblower, I forwarded him copies of Jake's recent suspicious purchases. Gasoline. Duct tape. A knife. Paid for with his company credit card. I hung up knowing Jake was about to have a very bad day. And then, for the final touch, I sent Amanda a single text. From my phone. Mark, hey, sweetheart. Can't wait to see you soon. The second she saw it, I knew she'd panic. And when people panic, they make mistakes. Mistakes that I was going to use to destroy them. I sat in Greg's cabin, my burner phone in hand, waiting. It didn't take long. Amanda called me back within 30 seconds. I let it ring. Then again. And again. Then came the frantic texts. Amanda, Mark. Amanda, this isn't funny. Call me now. Amanda, if this is some kind of sick joke, I swear to God. Amanda, Jake says you're dead. Amanda, where are you? I smirked. Hook. Line. Sinker. I knew she was panicking, pacing the house, probably already on the phone with Jake. She'd be asking him if he was sure I was dead. Asking if someone else could have sent that message. And Jake? He'd be sweating. Because the second I sent that text, their perfect little world started falling apart. The dominoes start to fall. I needed to keep the pressure on. I called Amanda's office next. "Hi, this is Mark Evans. My wife Amanda works there. I was supposed to pick her up for lunch, but I can't reach her. Could you transfer me to her line?" The receptionist hesitated. I think she left early today." "Bingo. Really? That's odd," I said. "She didn't mention anything this morning. Do you know where she went?" Well, she looked upset. And she was talking on the phone about meeting someone." I smiled. "Got it. Thanks." I hung up and leaned back in my chair. Amanda was scrambling. And I knew exactly where she was going. Greg let me borrow his old truck. It was beat up, rusted, and didn't have working air conditioning, but it got me where I needed to go, Jake's house. I parked a block away and walked up, staying in the shadows. They were inside. I could see them through the front window, pacing, arguing. I pulled out my burner phone and dialed Amanda's number. Inside, I saw her look at her screen. She turned white as a sheet. She showed the phone to Jake. I could see the panic in his eyes. He grabbed it from her, answering on speaker. "Who is this?" Jake demanded. I kept my voice low, just above a whisper. "You already know." Silence. Then, Amanda's voice, shaking. "Mark." I let a beat pass. Then, calmly, "Did you miss me?" Amanda screamed and dropped the phone. Jake picked it up, his voice a mix of rage and fear. "Where the hell are you?" I chuckled. "Closer than you think." I hung up. Inside, I watched as Jake bolted to the window, looking out into the night. He wouldn't see me. But he knew now. I was alive. And I was coming for them. I watched from the shadows as panic set in. Amanda clutched her stomach like she might throw up. Jake paced, running a hand through his hair, cursing under his breath. They didn't know what to do. Good. I let them stew in their fear for a while before making my next move. I dialed the police. 911, what's your emergency? I kept my voice calm, measured. I need to report an attempted murder. My name is Mark Evans. My wife and her lover tried to kill me. The operator hesitated. Sir, did you say attempted murder? Yes, I said, stepping out of the shadows now, walking toward Jake's front door. And if you hurry, you'll catch them red-handed. I hung up and knocked. Jake yanked the door open, face twisted in rage. But when he saw me standing there, alive, breathing, the color drained from his face. Amanda, he croaked. It's him. She peeked around the corner, eyes wide, lips trembling. No, she whispered. You're dead. I took a slow step inside. Looks like you screwed that up too. Jake lunged. I was ready. I sidestepped, grabbed his wrist, and drove my knee into his gut. He staggered back, gasping for air. Amanda screamed. I didn't touch her. I wanted to. I wanted to grab her, shake her, demand to know how she could do this to me. But she wasn't worth the energy. Instead, I smiled. The cops are on their way, I said, watching the terror bloom on her face. I have everything. The texts, the emails, the receipts. The poison you were going to use on me. The money you were planning to run away with. Jake groaned from the floor. Amanda shook her head, tears welling up. Mark, please. I cut her off. You planned this for months. You tried to kill me more than once. You wanted me gone. I took a step closer, lowering my voice. Well, Amanda, now you're the one who's going away. The sirens blared in the distance. She collapsed to the floor, sobbing. The police took my statement. I handed over every piece of evidence I had. Jake and Amanda were arrested on the spot. Charges included attempted murder, conspiracy, and destruction of property. When they searched Jake's house, they found the rest of their plans: burner phones, more receipts, even a document outlining how they were going to launder the insurance payout. They had no way out. Amanda begged for forgiveness. Cried in court. Swore she had been manipulated. But the evidence was too strong. She got 25 years. Jake. 35. I sat in the courtroom, watching as they led her away in handcuffs. She turned to look at me one last time, eyes filled with regret. But me? I felt nothing. She had already killed the part of me that loved her. Now, I was finally free. And as I walked out of that courthouse into the open air, I had never felt more alive.